It's time to hit rewind. Today, we're looking back at 3 incredible studios that prove when you can't build out, you have to build up. From clever storage hacks to cozy sleeping nooks, get ready to see how these renters mastered the art of the lofted bed. First up, a very special double feature. We're visiting the exact same diamond in the sky apartment 2 different ways. First, you'll see how Lee used a minimal blue and white palette to maximize the natural light. Then, watch how Brian completely shifted the vibe to an organic, modern aesthetic and how he used warm leather and rattan textures to soften the industrial space.
I have a nickname for my apartment, which my friends coined, called Diamond in the Sky. Which I love. I think it just feels as though it's a greenhouse that kind of got thrown on the roof. I think it lends itself to the fact that it gets so much natural light, which is probably one of my favorite elements of the space. One of the biggest challenges that I've had when I took on this apartment essentially was, first of all, it's really small. And so it was important to minimize the colors. So I focused on this blue and white, and I was mainly inspired by this lamp that I have for my great grandmother, and actually some plates that she had as well. And so I wanted to figure out a way to incorporate those and kind of taking elements from my time in LA. So you'll see there's a lot of plants, which make me very happy, but also giving this sense of, I don't have a backyard, there's not much space here, but how can I incorporate like the outdoors in and have it maybe something that's a little bit away from the insanity of New York City. I think if I could offer any advice, keep things really simple. And I'm sure it's something that people have heard many times. But honestly, if you keep your color palette pretty clean, minimal, it'll really help to keep the space feeling really easy on the eye. My apartment reflects the city in the way that you can hear probably every noise outside of these windows. In all seriousness, I can hear a penny drop. But I think what I've been able to do is on the inside, there is something that feels really relaxing about being in this space. It does feel as though I'm almost above the city to a degree. There's something really nice about that.
Hello, Apartment Therapy. Welcome to my 350 square foot apartment in downtown Manhattan, New York. I found the apartment in 2020 in the midst of everyone being in lockdown. Because it's so small, I wasn't immediately that inspired by it, but I was browsing Apartment Therapy actually one day, and I happened to see a video in an article about this space. And from that moment on, I was like, wait, I'm so inspired by what that tenant had done with the space, given that it is small, but still very livable, and it felt very cozy. And I was like, wait a second, this is actually something special. I need to take another look at this. When I first moved in, I think my biggest priority for the space was honestly just celebrating the space. It's so unique. I've never lived anywhere like this before. I hadn't met many people in New York who had similar sorts of apartments with this much light and sort of like weird architecture. So you've got these really weird slanted walls, you've got the pitched roof. Since it was 2020, at the time, TV was a priority because that's all I could really do was like binge watch the British Baking Show. So sort of like figuring out where to have a TV, where to have a couch. Those were the things that were most important to me. And like even the couch, for example, I have this really beautiful white brick fireplace behind the couch, which is like a shame to cover up, and I wish I didn't have to, but I didn't know where else to put a couch. And I think one of the previous tenants has sort of had it like almost in the middle of the room with some seating behind, which was really interesting in terms of like a sitting area. But I was like, I really want the TV to also be something that I can easily watch. And this wall was really the only place that I thought it made sense. Because I love having people in my apartment so much, I'm always trying to invite people over for cocktails, for pre-drinks, movie nights, whatever. But if it's just 2 of us, we'll probably just be hanging out here on the couch. It's like a 2.5 seater, whatever that means. So cozy without feeling like you're on top of one another. This chair is sort of like when friends come over and I feel like I have to almost act as a therapist, like someone will lay on the couch and I'll just sit here and talk to them about like, what's going on? Like, how is your day? How can we make it better? And then with the radiator, is it the most comfortable seat in the house? Absolutely not. But this is usually where I'll default to when I have a lot of other friends over because I don't want them to have to sit on the cold, hard steel or whatever material this is. So I'll usually take this one. And then if I have even more people will find their way up on the ledge, which is nice. As a last resort, We also have these lovely, I don't know what, this isn't wicker, I don't know what quite it is, the material, but these could even get pulled out to make even more space for everyone to sit down. So it does get cozy, but with that many people, it's a lot of fun. Windows open, music playing. It's my favorite way to be. And another seating area, the lofted space, where I also sleep. And this is where the magic happens. And by magic, I mean you might bump your head when you come up. The bedroom space is really interesting because obviously it looks out at the rest of the apartment, so it all feels very cohesive to me in like one space. But a question I get all the time is, how do you not fall out of your bed every night? And the way I think about it is like, I've never in my life, and I want to like, I don't know, touch wood or whatever while I'm saying this, but I've never in my life fallen out of a bed before. So if and when it happens here, which hopefully it does not, it will be the first time and probably the last time, depending on what I hit, that I will ever have fallen out of bed. So it doesn't really worry me. It does, you know, when I have people spending the night, it does worry them sometimes, and I will usually volunteer myself to sleep on the outside edge just to make sure nobody ever feels too scared up here. But there's also a ton of storage in the back corner that you might not even be able to see, which is intentional. I kind of try to keep it hidden and in the back. So since there is so much natural light coming really from every angle, having the mirror up here sort of reflects more light back, which just makes it feel even bigger and more spacious and airy. So yeah, more recent addition, but I love having that up here. Because the apartment gets incredible natural light, my first thought was I'm gonna buy a ton of plants, put them everywhere, and people come into my apartment, they think that I'm some sort of green thumb, but honestly, they just love it here. I don't really have to do much because it's always sunny, and as long as you water them every once in a while, they're usually good to go. I think these two sort of also divide the space a little bit between the living room and the corner over here, which is where I work every day. I work from home still most of the time. I use it more of a standing desk versus sitting down just because it helps me just focus more, and I like having the view of looking outside while I'm working. So this also doubles as a dining area. So sometimes I'll have friends over. We can open up the windows, enjoy New York City, and just sit here and share a glass of wine together. And then this leads right into the kitchen space, which is definitely small and cozy, but it's very functional as well. And my favorite part about my kitchen is that I have a dishwasher, which is, if you live in New York, you know, rarely ever happens. And the fact that the kitchen is so small but still has one is like, I was immediately sold on the kitchen space. When I moved into the space, all of the counters, the backsplash, everything was all just white, exactly the same as the walls. And it was kind of depressing, kind of sad. The overhead lighting was not that great. So my first sort of project when I moved in here was to get this wood countertop, which is just a sticker, don't tell anyone. And then also the backsplash is sort of this subway tile effect to just make it a little bit more cozy, a little bit more modern. Don't look too closely because it might be coming undone in a couple spots, but I think it mostly gets the effect across, and it makes it feel, like I said, much more modern and a nice place to be. So every piece of kitchen equipment, every pot, pan, plate, I use constantly because there is such limited storage in the space. I'm always grabbing and reaching for everything. And then, yeah, because the lighting, like I said, isn't the best lighting, I also installed this sort of like LED panel below. And so you can sort of see some of like the guts, which you can't really see from eye level, which is nice. But this is nice because it sort of lights everything from above. But then at night when I come in here, it feels very moody and less harsh without the overhead lighting. So definitely one of my favorite places in my apartment, just because I did get to sort of pull all these pieces together that weren't already here and make it feel a little bit more special than when I moved in. So this is the bathroom, also very small to match how small the rest of the apartment is, but in line with the rest of the space, there's also great natural light here as well. We have another one of my houseplants hanging out up here in this beautiful skylight space. The other thing I really love about the bathroom is for how small the apartment is, I have a ton of storage in here. So I've got 3 separate mirrors, all with storage behind. With the space being so small, I do only have 1 closet. So in here, you've got tons of clothes, my clothes hamper. There's also this shoe rack that I installed that I think was IKEA. where I put all my shoes, which is a big upgrade for me. And then for other storage, this dresser was actually the very first piece of furniture that I brought into the space. This was the one thing that I owned before I moved in here. It's mostly clothes. The top drawer, and this is probably the one that I use the most often, is just my junk drawer that I'm not going to show you. But anything and everything goes in here, from a box cutter for when I get packages that I want to open up right by my front door to extra keys and things like that are all found in this top one. Junk drawers, very important for keeping your space at least looking together because it's all hidden. While I love the way the apartment ultimately came out, I will say, before I moved in here, I knew nothing about interior design. My last apartment was a hodgepodge of college furniture, IKEA stuff, things that I had collected over the years that didn't necessarily go together at all. Once I found the space and realized that the lighting was so great and it all felt very open and airy, I was like, okay, I can play with that. I want to celebrate how nature sort of leaks into this apartment in many ways. I took to Pinterest. I started a Pinterest account, which I'd never even been on before, and just started pinning things. And over time, as I was pinning things, I would start to see like similarities and what the aesthetic was shaping up to be. And I would notice like, oh, I saved these photos that had similar items in it. Like maybe that's a cue, like, oh, I really like a leather couch. I know that now about myself. And so from there, I just started curating everything into a mood board that I had created just on Keynote, drag and dropping all of my favorite items onto one slide, essentially. The only thing that I really had to go off of when I moved into this space was this ladder. And it's such a beautiful color. It's this golden wooden tone. So I was like, okay, that's a reference point. You know, like this bench, for example, also plays off sort of the golden color of the ladder. It's got this really interesting rattan top on it. Also just like a very natural sort of fiber. And you can't see, but below there's this whole nest of wires and things that I've hung up under there just to keep, like I said, everything lifted off of the ground so you don't notice it when you come in. The table is another favorite piece of mine that I found, this white marble. Again, just playing off the idea of really organic sorts of materials paired with another rattan piece. The leather couch, also, again, brown, cozy, comfortable. It feels like something that you would just find organically out in nature, which is definitely the vibe that I was trying to bring into the space. I think home to me means, first and foremost, cozy. It needs to be a space that I enjoy being in. Home felt confident for me, which is like a kind of a weird word to think about, but it was really the first time I'd put together a space. And so once it all came together and I really enjoyed what it looked like, I was like, oh wow, here's a skill that I didn't think I had. But because it came together in a way that I really enjoyed, I was like, oh, now I have confidence. So when I'm home, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is a nice space. I enjoy being here. Other people enjoy being here. For the previous tenant who lived in the space, thanks for the inspiration of really seeing how you can effectively use a small space that feels like you have everything you need, but then also feels very well put together, designed. I love that this space has a history to it, and I love that it's been captured and that we're capturing it again. I think that's really cool.
Next, we're in the West Village, where Courtney and Jules share a tiny 248 square foot space that feels more like a treehouse than an apartment. Keep an eye out for their incredible DIY dresser.
It's like a life-size dollhouse or something? I don't know.
It's like we're playing house, but it's like real life.
But it's like,
real
oh no,
house.
this is real. Yeah. Hi, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Jules. Welcome to our 248 square foot apartment in the West Village.
I think it's an eclectic style. It has things from all over the place, much like the city. I think even beyond that, this apartment embodies at least what I thought of this neighborhood before I moved in. It's a tiny space that's kind of quirky, has some unique bits to it with the loft. The floors are completely crooked. The fireplace, I think, is adorable, and it just has these elements that are very much our neighborhood.
And in the warm weather, we'll often like make breakfast or food and then just like bring it outside, and it feels just like such a treat. It just like feels like otherworldly or something. We'll like bring backgammon out back and like play a game and have coffee and eat out back, and there's like a whole little world of birds and animals going on back there.
We call it Bird Town. It's really cute. There's like, I think really a whole world that they have going on back there. They're like talking all the time. Wonder what's going on in Birdtown today.
We're like old people.
Just sitting playing cards.
Yeah.
I've always really enjoyed the desert and felt somewhat connected to it and traveled there fairly frequently without having spent any significant time or lived there. And then a few months back, we were kind of getting a little stir crazy in here and decided to take a road trip
From New Mexico, Arizona, into California. So we got engaged in the desert.
that was dual purpose, like most things in our life. And we got engaged. And so now it's become even more meaningful. And we've brought some things back from that trip and infused them back into here that already had a desert vibe to it. So I think that's a big influence for us. I think the thing that makes this apartment different is it's everything is really worked for. Like every little bit of it is like, oh yeah, I put myself into that. I have the story that's associated with where that came from, or I have this memory of how difficult it was obtaining whatever piece. And so that, I think, is also what makes this feel so much like home. Like, this is my space. I earned it. I earned every little second of it. One of our favorite DIYs is our shoe cabinet turned dresser.
We spent a weekend revamping the piece. It was white before, and we bought these like mother of pearl knobs from Etsy.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got metal sheets of aluminum from
Yeah, it's like actually,
Home
I think,
Depot.
a siding. So we unrolled it. We turned this into like a little wood shop working studio. And most people come in and they're like, wow, where'd you guys get this? This is so cool. And we're like,
It's a shoe rack.
It's an IKEA shoe rack.
I think in downsizing, it really has been like a, if you don't love this, it has to go.
But it's amazing you don't, or at least for me, that I don't need all of the extras that I once kind of thought I needed. Need very little, and to love the little things that you do have. I think it has to be aesthetic and functional, which makes it more difficult to find and do, but the knives are the perfect example of that. I love the way they look, but they're also they're probably the best knives I've had, so the only knives I might have had, to be honest.
We keep all of our pans in the oven until they're used. We found a space for the cutting board on the side of the kitchen. It's kind of like there's only so much sink space, there's only so much oven space. So you take one thing down, something else has to get cleaned and put away.
You have to be very strategic. You have to plan out. I feel like when we make meals, which we've done a lot of, it's like, okay, you're on this duty, you're on this duty. Okay, are you done with that task yet? Because we have to like completely revamp, switch, clean, and move into the next phase.
One of the most important pieces in keeping our small space organized is this industrial looking chest of drawers that we have that actually used to be an old mail
Filing cabinet at the Brooklyn courthouse.
So that's where we store all of our little odds and ends, our cords, our pens and paper, medicine,
Games.
all the little things that we want easy access to, but we don't want in sight. I think my childhood self would have loved this apartment. And it almost feels like a childhood dream or something, like climbing up to a treehouse at night. There's like sometimes we'll watch TV from the loft and you're kind of
like a little treat.
laying with your feet kicked back and up like you do as a kid, and
It's kind of Swiss Family Robinson-esque.
yeah.
Like, it is childhood dreams, being surrounded by your favorite things. And so I feel like this tiny little space, even though it's just one room, is everything I need. I love coming home. I've never really felt like that before. It's New York. I was always like, oh, I gotta be out. I gotta be doing this, that. Every little bit of free time was spent kind of escaping home, whereas now I'm really happy to be at home.
Oh my god. Adorable.
Birdtown. I can't believe we just talked about Birdtown.
You brought up Birdtown.
I know. I could hear them. They're like, hey, what about us? Don't forget us.
Like, are we in the interview?
Finally, we head to Philadelphia to visit Joseph's 275 square foot studio. His eclectic 70s bohemian personality shines through in every detail. But the real standout here is his clothing storage.
Hey, apartment therapy. Welcome to Philadelphia. My name's Joseph, and this is my 275 square foot apartment. So I've been in this apartment for about 2.5 years now, and it's actually the first apartment that really feels like me and feels like home. I've moved around a lot in the last 5 to 10 years, and it's just been exciting. Even if it's a tiny little space, it feels like me, and I've been able to like make it be like me. I don't know, it's weird. But I describe my personal style as this kind of eclectic 70s bohemian. I don't know, I just got these new bangs, so like we'll see what that means. So my biggest splurge in this apartment is my sofa. And it's sectional, which is cool because it breaks apart and you can reconfigure it. This is my favorite configuration here, this L shape. And it's really cool because it actually is a sleeper sofa. So when you have an overnight guest, it's perfect for that drunk friend. One of the things that drew me to this apartment was this cool loft. It's awesome because it gets my bed up and out of the way, so I can have a day where I don't make the bed. So living in a small space, clothing storage is always an issue, especially for me. I make this little closet do the most, so you'll see sweaters stacked on the floor, and then all the way up, more clothing stacked in boxes on boxes. Making use of this small space, I even use the dresser for my TV stand too, so making every piece of furniture do double duty is key. One of my favorite DIYs in my apartment is this tabletop, and it's made from the leftover wood from my headboard, and it's perfect whenever I'm entertaining. Lately, I've been really excited about plants and becoming this like plant dad, whatever that means. This is my baby kitchen, and you can see it has all the basic needs, which was great when I moved in. The only bad thing is the small drawer storage. So ultimately what happened is my silverware ends up on the countertop. And I found this cool tiered planter, and it doubles as my silverware and coffee station. Being the new plant dad that I am, I just got a grow bulb for my windowsill, so hopefully my basil will spring back to life a little bit more. And then one of the other weird things about this kitchen is the space above the cabinets. I've actually been able to use that to store all of my big pieces of art. This is my small little bathroom. Come on in. You can see one of my favorite tips here is actually using a shower curtain and hanging it right in front of the glass dated fixture. It's just a great way to kind of like add some print to the space and keep it more modern. I would say my like personal style changes so often that like my apartment's kind of the same way, and how I approach the way I dress is kind of the way I approach my apartment. So, you know, like maybe today I'm mixing metals or layering a funky necklace over this old band tee. It's the same way I approach my apartment. So I take this modern coffee table and put it on a funky bohemian rug, and my grandpa's army trunk is right next to it. I like to see those little bits of history and then that juxtaposition of a modern layered on top of that.
Whether it's for storage, sleeping, or just a fresh perspective, these homes prove that using your vertical space is the ultimate key to unlocking a small apartment's potential.